Hi everyone, welcome back to My Parenting Way. My name's Katie and today I'm going to talk to you about Aidan, who gave us a bit of a scare over the weekend because we think he might have developed histamine intolerance. So I'm not really going to go into the science of it because there's lots of videos here on YouTube that already go into histamine intolerance and what it means and what it does. But basically, in layman's terms, it is where your body has stored up too much histamine and the enzyme that breaks down histamine hasn't quite caught up yet. And as a result, this buildup can then almost come up in an allergic reaction type scenario, which is not great, and it can be pretty scary when it happens to your child. So I realised when I was trying to do my research into histamine intolerance with children, there wasn't much on YouTube that I could find. But I'll tell you what happened to Aidan, and that will hopefully help anyone out there who has a child who might be going through the same thing. So it all started off in the morning as per normal. Aidan had previous a snotty nose the day before. He was a bit under the weather, but he was fine. We sent him into nursery. And then on the Thursday morning, he woke up with a few hive-like bumps, one under his eye and one on his leg. And they looked really angry and itchy and sore. And I knew just by looking at them that they were hives or some kind of reaction. So we gave him some antihistamine straight away, and because he was really grumpy and not liking life at all, so my husband stayed at home with him. And next thing we knew, I went to work, and when I came home from work around 5 o'clock, I came home and Aidan's face had just blown up. His eyes were shutting and his eyelids were swollen. He had this horrendous rash all over his face. I noticed that the rash was going up his arm and down his legs, but nothing on his torso at this point. So I walked in and went, oh my God, what's happened? And my husband said, don't worry, I phoned 111 and we're going to speak to a doctor soon, blah, blah, blah. And we eventually ended up speaking to and seeing a doctor around 5:30 that evening. And driving to the doctor, Aidan projectile vomited everywhere, all over the car. And his system was clearly just reacting to something, but it was so aggressive and so quick, but not in a way that would suggest he had a true allergy to something. So anyone who has a peanut allergy or any of these sort of really common severe allergies would know that you would, if it was such a severe reaction, you would need adrenaline straight away, and your airway would close and you would just have such an enormous reaction that it would be an emergency. But this was just aggressive, but over the day, and it just got progressively worse. And then by the time I got to the doctor, he was vomiting and just really hating life. So saw the doctor, who took his vital signs and did all those, noted them down. They were all normal. He didn't have a fever at all. So one of the things that we were querying at the time is whether he had scarlet fever, which could come up in this horrendous rash, and you get this sort of red, swollen, pink strawberry tongue and things like that. But because it's actually quite uncommon under 3 years old, I believe, and also he actually didn't have a fever. He wasn't hot at all. So we could give him Calpol and things to try and sort of get away the pain and the itchiness, but actually he didn't have a fever. So we took him to the doctor. The doctor immediately gave him steroids. So she gave him something called prednisolone and a antihistamine. So she gave him a chlorophenamine based antihistamine. So this is one she gave him, which I think you can just buy off the shelf, if I'm honest, at any pharmacy, and I'll just ask a few questions about your child and what the symptoms are for you to give it to them. But he couldn't keep the steroids down. Every time he had the steroids, he would vomit them back up. And I think that when it comes to steroids, you need to have them with food. When it comes to children having these steroids, it comes in 6 tiny tablets that you dissolve in water, and I believe you can mix them with milk, and you're supposed to eat them with food to try and keep the stomach settled. But because Aidan wasn't eating, we were really struggling to get that balance.
used to try and make a difference too.
So by Friday, things were looking better in the morning. Some of his rashes were starting to subside, but by the afternoon, by about 1 o'clock, it had all gotten so much worse. The rashes had gotten worse on his face. His body, his entire torso and back was just covered in these welts. They look huge and sore and itchy, and he looked like he was really, really suffering, bless him. He still wasn't keeping any food down, and we were told by the doctor the day before that if there was any kind of worsening of any of the symptoms, then we were to phone back 111, which we then did. 111 then phoned an ambulance to our house, and the ambulance arrived about an hour later to look after Aidan and just check him and check his vital signs again. So the ambulance crew noted that the vital signs were completely normal again, so no change in temperature, his heart rate was normal, all the things that you would probably worry about if there was an extreme allergic reaction were all normal. And I think we made the judgment call that it was probably better for Aidan to stay home and rest and keep an eye on him and continue with the medication rather than drag him to A&E on a Friday evening to wait 4 hours for him to get more stressed. So my husband and I made a choice then and there that we would keep him home. And I'm glad we did, actually, because nothing got worse. He was completely fine. We continued with the medication. So we had antihistamines 4 times a day as advised by the doctor, and then as well as the prednisolone. He hadn't had any prednisolone, which he was able to keep down for either of the 2 days. However, Saturday he woke up, he was better, not completely fine, but much better. Then he started to go downhill again. On Saturday morning, he would not be able to get up. He was sleeping on me all morning. To be honest, it was nice to have the cuddles. So by Saturday afternoon, he had perked up quite a lot to be able to go outside for a little walk. And then by Sunday, he was almost 100% better, as in like he was before. So much so, we managed to get him to a park to play, and he was loving life. And it's incredible how quickly it all went. So I have a theory that Aidan actually caught a little stomach bug first, and this disruption in any kind of stomach or bowel issue can actually trigger almost an overload of histamine in your body because your gut isn't managing to process the food properly. So I think that might be it. I think he had the tummy trouble first, and therefore he had this buildup of histamine, and it came out in this almighty allergic reaction. And yeah, I think that's it. I've spoken to a few parents who have already gone through exactly the same thing with their children, and speaking to some mums, they've gone through tests, they haven't found any allergy, they've had normal liver and kidney results when they got tested, and I actually have put it down to histamine intolerance. We are now going to push for allergy testing with Aidan because of this reaction and because he's had previous allergies to, say, sesame, and I'll put the link down below of my video to that. And I think I'm going to push for allergy testing now as a result of the last few days. But I'll keep you updated because it's really bloody stressful. And if anyone else is going through this, it might be a histamine intolerance, in which case you perhaps need to go on a low histamine diet. Again, I'm not going to go into that at all because there's loads of videos on here that will do that for you. But we have tried it with Aidan over the last 3 days, foods with low histamine, and it seems to be doing the trick. So here's hoping it's that, and we know what it is and we know how to then counteract it, but I will keep you up to date with what happens. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. Please like this video if you found it helpful, and click the subscribe button if you'd like all the updates on me and Aidan, and I will see you next time.